how this goes.
Right? Yes. Okay, I am now live streaming, which may mean, I don't know, but may mean that this part is going to be recorded and then be visible. So let's just assume from now on that we are publicly visible.
Okay.
So I need the embed link, which is this. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Copy. Close.
We never could make my document camera work all that well. I could use it to show this scarf, but
I think it works just as well if you hold it up to the camera.
okay.
There it is. Title post recording. Okay. So, yeah, that is. Okay. I'm going to post the live stream 5 minutes before 6, and then we can just sort of sit around and chat until 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Because I want people to have time to get connected and set up, and I don't know how it works. I wondered if I shouldn't have like a stack of books or something in case people had questions about this book or that book, or what does the thing on this page of that thing mean? But I can just really get them,
if I have it, I can get up and go look for them.
Well, I have a small stack not far and several other stacks in, increasing distances all the way to the shelf where all the rest of the books are. So I can go get them.
Okay. Well, I have Echo and Iris right here.
I have Davison and Bertha Gray Hayes right over there. Oh, and some other stuff. And I have just to be sure I had something to talk about if there was nothing else to, like, no questions. Oh, right, we're live. Anyway, I have a big stack of samples from Double Trouble sitting here to talk about if we need filler.
Okay.
All right, it's that time. I'm going to post this. Post. Schedule for right now. Okay, schedule. That's interesting. So my post is scheduled for 5:59. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Well, I don't need that open. And I don't know if I need that open. How many people do you think we're going to get? Want to place bets?
I have no idea.
No, neither do I. Several people have joined in the last couple of days.
Well, hopefully they will be able to. I know some people said that they couldn't be here now, but that they would be checking out the recording. Says I am in a practice session.
Yes, that's because we're not actually, the webinar isn't live yet.
Ah.
But I should start it. I'm going to start it. Starting it. There. So now, well, at 5:59, it will get posted to Patreon. Oh, there's people's. It's not just me talking to each other for an hour and a half, Mom, which would have been fine, but actually, I need to set this stuff up. I didn't even think about it because we're not going to do that. We could do that. And where is the chat? Make sure people can chat. Attendees can chat with everyone. Excellent. And close. I don't see the thing about raising hands anymore. So don't raise your hands, guys, because we can't see you. Maybe they took it off because it didn't make any sense. People, hello, the people. Da, 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 da. Just waiting until 6 o'clock to actually start, but it's good to see you all. Mom and I debated making bets on how many people would come, but decided not to. Hopefully the folks, here, actually, I have a friend who was just planning on watching on Patreon. So I'm going to ask her if she will let me know if it's working. Okay. We are figuring out how this goes, and Holly already has her hand up. Didn't I just say don't raise your hands because we can't see it? Apparently I'm wrong, and we can raise our hands. And still, but Holly, just go ahead and either hello, she says. You can just put it in the Q&A. And I'm trying to figure out, there used to be little buttons over there that let us not raise the hands. Participants, what's over there?
Well, we can't tell if anybody has a hand raised I can't without putting my cursor on it.
If you open the participants panel and put it on attendees rather than panelists, it will show you whose hands are up.
Oh, we can see who is here.
Yes.
Oh,
I recognize many of the names, but not every one of them. Hello, Judy from NY. Oh, look, it's 6 o'clock.
Mary,
yeah.
There's Mary from Vashon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's 6 o'clock. So this is your 90 minutes. We are going to start, as always, with the SCARF report. And then we will get into questions. So those of you who are raising your hands, that's not really meaningful with our interface. What you should do is ask your question through the Q&A interface. So I guess I should do the spiel. Of course, maybe not everybody here has taken a live class from either me or Tian where we've done it through Zoom. So if you're on a desktop or a laptop, if you're on a computer, somewhere in the bottom menu bar below our pictures, there will be a button that says Q&A. And if you click on that, it opens a little dialog box that lets you type in a question that we will answer. There's also the chat interface, which is a couple buttons over. And that it's best to keep for socializing. So that, because we'll focus on the Q&A interface for the questions to answer. But we will try to keep an eye on the chat interface too. Don't bother with the raising your hands thing because we've got so many panels and windows and things open that it's likely we won't even see it. So that's not going to be an effective way of getting our attention. I am going to try flipping back and forth occasionally to look and see if anything is happening on Patreon in case somebody is watching the live stream there and post questions like in the comments, but I don't know if that's going to be a feasible thing. I don't know if it's really going to work very smoothly or well. So the priority is going to be on the Zoom interface. And if it works, I'll keep an eye on the other as well. If you are on a device like a tablet or a phone, then the same buttons are somewhere in your menus, but they are in different places in different apps. So we can't tell you exactly where to find the Q&A button. When you open that Q&A dialogue, you will see a list of outstanding questions that haven't been answered yet. And if you see that somebody's already asked a question, much like the one you're about to ask, then rather than ask your own separate question in the list, you can add a comment to the one that's already there. And then that just helps us focus on a topic at a time rather than having to loop back around and around and around. Okay. We're gonna start, let's see. Oh, Mom. Oh, we should introduce ourselves too, in case, I'm not sure how many folks here have taken classes with me and Mom, or me and Tian, or Tian on her own, but you may not have met my mom, even if you've taken a class from me, if it wasn't one that she and I taught together. So I am Janet Dawson, and you know about me from the website and blah, 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 but that's my mom. She's over there, or she's over there. I don't know where she is on your screen. And her name is Sue Willingham, and she lives in the Seattle area on a little island called Vashon, which you get to on a ferry, which is just the coolest thing ever. And Mom,
except when it isn't running.
Oh yeah, that's less cool.
We've had some ferry challenges lately.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that later. Do you want to introduce yourself, Mom, or do you want me to introduce you?
You can introduce me.
Oh, daring. Risk taker, my mom. Sue Willingham. She has been weaving almost every bit as long as I have. Just she learned the year after I did. Really, we learned together because we were, how long are you learning to weave? 27 years and counting so far for me. And is a member of the Seattle Weavers Guild, a past president, in fact, and has had other positions on the board, and also a member of some smaller local guilds. And she and I teach together every winter when I am able to go home. So wasn't able to go home during COVID, but we taught online instead. I am planning on going home to the Seattle area next winter to teach. In her studio, the Willingham Weavery on beautiful Vashon Island. And the fact of the matter is, folks, that she weaves way more than I do. So she has the practical experience, and I talk a lot. Yeah. So we begin all of our webinars with the scarf report, which is Mom telling us about the beautiful scarf du jour. So take it away, Mom Sue.
Okay. Well, this one I wove in 2017. I had gotten the book Weaving with Echo and Iris by Marian Stubenitsky. I believe Janet gave it to me. And a lot of it just goes over my head, I have to admit. But on page 32, there is a draft. It's actually, it shows you how to thread it and how to treadle it without a lot of theory involved. So it has 4 different colors in the warp and 1 color in the weft. This end of it I wove with navy blue weft, and this end of it I wove with red weft. And it's quite iridescent. course, that's part of the purpose of what she was doing in this book. I used 10-2 mercerized cotton set at 24, I believe. And it has a tabby, but it's a self tabby. So you weave a pattern shot and then back with the tabby using the same shuttle. So it's a pretty nice weight. It's a little heavy because it's fairly dense, but I like it. So that's the scarf report.
Thank you. I just realized that when I published the post to the Patreon page for the live stream, that it was super smart and knew to schedule it for 5:59 p.m. all by itself. So cool. So I just clicked the schedule thing, did not look at the date. It scheduled it for tomorrow. So I just madly changed things, and the live stream should be running on Patreon now. So Patreon people, apologies for the delay there. Okay, and it does look like there's a sort of way to chat back and forth on that live stream post. So that is a way to ask questions. It just remains to be seen as to whether or not we'll be able to look at them. So as before, best bet is in Zoom. All right, I'm gonna check the chat. Okay. We have 2 questions so far in the Q&A. Susan Hector says, interested in anything you care to discuss, but would like to hear about stash weaving, mixed warps, crackle in summer and winter. Susan, if you can ask a specific question, then we'll do our best to answer it. But if you get us talking about any one of those things, it'll take the entire 90 minutes and we won't get to question number 2, if it's just an open-ended question. So if you can formulate one or more specific questions, then please do. Okay, Judy Mahoney says, I'm interested in the difference between Fiberworks and iWeave-It. Okay, so iWeave-It is an application written for an iPad. You can use it on your phone, but it is really iPhone, but it's so tiny, it's not really worth it. I believe, though I cannot say for certain, that iWeave-It has been ported to Android devices. I'm not sure about that, but it's an app for your device. It's far less expensive than Fiberworks is, but it's also not as fully featured. It does have a lot of really good features and some features that Fiberworks doesn't even have. But it is, the user interface for it is designed to work with an iPad, which means a lot of tapping on the screen, and which I don't find as easy to work with as using a mouse and a keyboard. So I have both, and I have all the paid add-ons for iWeave-It, and I like iWeave-It for doodling when I'm waiting in the ferry line at Mom's, or I have an idea when I am, I don't know, someplace where I can't get to my laptop and I just want to play around with something real quick. Or it's also good for me. I also like it for if I've designed something in Fiberworks, then I can open the file in iWeave-It at my loom. So if I have a complicated tie-up, for instance, I can take my iPad and sit there under my loom with it and look at the tie-up. And if I'm not sure if the tie-up is right, then I can like poke and change the tie-up, which you can't do if you've printed the tie-up out. So I know a lot of people love iWeave-It and use it a lot and use it for designing, but I suspect that the people for whom it fulfills all of their needs are not doing things like block substitution. I don't think that iWeave-It can do things like block substitution, which is something I use a lot. So good for I'd say shorter repeats, and for simpler structures, more simple structures, twills, overshot, weave certainly, and good
Janet?
for port. Yes.
I don't have it, but isn't there a treadle tracker thing on it?
Yes, and that's another thing that a lot of people
really like
love.
that.
There's a threading tracker and a treadling tracker, and you can configure it to, what it does is show you your threading in groups of, say, 4 threads at a time. And then same for your treadling. And when you have finished those 4 warp ends, when you finish threading them, or when you're treadling, when you have thrown those 4 weft picks, you tap the screen and it advances to the next group. And you can say whether you want it to be 4 threads or 5 threads or 6 threads or whatever. I personally don't use it because I think of the threading and the treadling by motifs usually, and they tend to vary in size. So having to always see 4 threads at a time, or 5 or whatever, doesn't work like for overshot. And so I don't personally use that feature, but people who do use it love it. And another thing that it has that Fiberworks does not have is a yarn library. So you can tell it, I'm going to use these yarns and I'm going to use them in these weights, and I'm going to use something, something, something. And it will, I think it will calculate for you how many yards and how many ounces and how much stuff you need. Fiberworks does not have any kind of a project planning component. It will tell you how many ends in your draft there are of certain colors, but it doesn't know anything about your set, the length of your warp, or any of that. And iWeave, it does have some of that stuff. Fiberworks, on the other hand, is a fully featured designing application. And it has some advanced functionality like block substitution, which I mentioned before, which lets you input a profile threading and profile treadling and profile tie-up even, and then it will convert it into whatever structure you choose from a library of options. And it has things like, well, it has a float search, but I bet that iWeave it does too. I'm not sure. It has things, if you get the silver package, it has things like parallel, adding a parallel to your threading or to your treadling, which is really nice if you want to do something like Echo and Iris, like the scarf mom was just showing you. And it has a whole library of, or a whole set of drawing tools for inputting. Plus you could use your keyboard. So, and it does, I think, a pretty good job of representing different kinds of structures. Not as good as some other software packages, perhaps, but things that are warp face, things that are weft face, things that are double weave, things that are, there's another word for it, and I forgot, bound weave. Anyhow, so I personally use Fiberworks almost exclusively, and occasionally take the files from Fiberworks to my iPad, look at it on iWeave it when I'm at the loom, like for threading or for tying up or for treadling. Or I use iWeave it when I'm doodling in the car and I don't have access to my laptop. But there are, avid fans of both for all of their weaving software needs. You don't have iWeave it, do you, Mom?
I do not. Kathleen is saying that iWeave it is free on Android. Seems to me that it was free on iPads, at least the first part of it, but I don't know if it still is.
I vaguely recall it being inexpensive. And now the price has gone up, but the price going up means it's like, I think last time I looked, 20 something dollars maybe for the app. And then each of the add-ons is a certain amount of money. It's definitely worth the price. And if you're not doing complicated drafts, it may be all that you need, as long as you don't find the user interface kind of frustrating. Just being limited to tapping on the screen, because You can't even like type the numbers to get your threading and your treadling, and you have to actually poke in the little squares.
Okay. Well,
And
Wendy said that it's no longer supported on Android, but that's what the website says.
Oh,
so
well.
Don't know.
The woman who, so I Weave It is done by a woman who also does, I think it's called Weave Pro. And I want to say her name is Susan, and I can't remember her last name. And I apologize, Susan, whatever your last name is, for not knowing this information. But she is fairly active in the, I think it's the weaving software group on Facebook. So if you're a Facebook user and you have any questions about iWeave It, you can go straight to the source and get help. Okay. So let's see. You must have clicked answered on those. All right. I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. Sandy Lincoln says, what and when will you be doing another class? Maybe a class on reading patterns or drafts and all the different ways they are written. Sandy, that is a class that I have on the curriculum list for the Academy. So I do not personally, I don't plan on offering that as a class through Weaving with Janet Dawson. I don't have that on my timeline, but it is on my timeline as one of the classes that I hope will be ready at launch for the Academy. Reading drafts and patterns. The next classes I personally plan to teach that are not the Hand Weaving Academy classes. I am contemplating doing something online in January that won't be an interactive class. So something that'll be sort of short and sweet, couple of weeks, maybe with a webinar at the end, so that if people have worked through the exercises and read the lessons and still have questions, they can ask them just one kick at the can at the end. So I'm toying with that in January. It depends on when Mom and I wind up teaching our classes on Vashon. I'm still kind of up in the air as to whether I want to go mid-January or mid-February. And that class that I was talking about that'll be online will work in around that. And what I will probably do is name drafting for Overshot or for other block and unit weaves, because that one I can easily see how it would work. And I can see that I could make it a 2-week class and that would cover the stuff that was important. And I have some other ideas too. All righty. Mom, there's a question there for you.
For me?
And Stouffer.
Well, we aren't there yet.
I was trying to skip ahead so they could hear you instead of me for a bit. Okay. Going down the list then. Susan Hector, for stash weaving, mixing plied stock yarn, including superwash, and other wool yarns, including hand spun singles. In fact, using hand spun in the warp when there are different plies and breeds. Should I be using the same set or proportions? Okay. I am a spinner, but I'm not an accomplished one. I can make the wheelie thing go and yarn comes out. I have used my hand spun for weaving a little bit, but I tend to not put very much twist into my yarn. So I've only ever used it on a rigid heddle loom because I am not sure that my own hand spun would stand up to the tension on a floor loom. You can certainly use hand spun on a floor loom. And Sarah Lamb, is she the weaver that writes about spinning for weaving? And Judith McKenzie spins for weaving. And there was a woman in this area, but I don't think she's active anymore. But her books are still out there. She wrote The Dyer's Garden, and I can't think of her name. Oh my gosh, so embarrassing. I'll look it up. Oh, wow. That was a good look, Janet. Whoops. Okay. Hopefully nobody's screen froze on that expression. So I would say that knitting yarns tend to have more springy bounce to them than weaving yarns, but your hand spun is going to be like that too, maybe even more springy, bouncier, depending on, how you've spun it. So I would not be overly concerned about mixing yarns that seem to have the same properties, even if they were hand spun and commercially spun. I would stop and consider before mixing superwash with non-superwash, because you want to be able to wash, wet finish that thing and not have it shrink up into seersucker. So if you're going to mix fibers in your warp, whether they're hand spun plus other wool or any other kind of fibers, if they're going to behave differently in the wet finishing, which you can test by washing a little bit of the yarn before you even put it on the loom, then you will get the most even fabric off the loom if the yarns are mixed like thread by thread all the way across, rather than a stripe of one thing and a stripe of another and a stripe of another and a stripe of another, because each of those stripes then might shrink up differently. But if every other thread shrinks up a little bit more than all the threads in between, then at least the whole fabric will be consistent, if you see what I mean. Mom, you have worked with hand spun, have you not?
Just a little bit.
Do you have any? Yes, Rita Buchanan. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ann Stoffer. That was the name.
Yeah. I don't have any wisdom in that regard.
Anybody in the chat window have wisdom for us related to weaving with hand spun? I think we're going to need to refer you to someone else, another expert. What was the name of the woman? You got me her book.
I did?
Yeah, you did. Or no, maybe you didn't. But I got it after a visit to your place. Mm-hmm. It's in the other room. Oh, maybe I can look it up here. Hang on. Library thing. While I look this up, do you want to start the next question?
Well, let's, oh dear. These questions don't, there we, oh.
Uh-oh. No, I can't find the book I was looking for anyway. Okay, I will look at the question. Oh, so still more about Susan. Susan, your set is going to depend on the thickness of your yarns. So I wouldn't consider whether it was hand spun or commercially spun when deciding on set. I would think about how much it's going to bloom. Is it worsted or woolen? Because woolen will bloom more, it will full more, it needs more space to do its thing. And just the grist of the yarn. Okay. Sorry, Mom, that was me leaping back into the fray. Were you going to answer one, or shall
you go ahead? We're working down the list.
Okay. Kathleen Sobe, am I saying your name right, Kathleen Sobe? Says in Huck, in a profile draft using 2 blocks, how do you show plain weave sections? All right, I'm going to answer 2 different questions because I'm not sure which of your questions is which of. So in a profile draft, if you only get 2 blocks and you're drafting Huck, one of the blocks would be like, you'd have to have a row for where it's going to be plain weave, and you'd have to have a row for where it's going to be Huck. And that uses up your 2 blocks. But if what you mean is, well, you could add it, if you have a 2-block profile and you want to indicate where there's plain weave in addition to those 2 blocks, because you don't need extra shafts on your loom to get plain weave if you have 2 blocks of Huck threaded. I would just add a 3rd block and call that your plain weave block. And if your question is, how do you get plain weave if you've got 2 blocks of huck? Well, so your 2 blocks of huck are probably maybe like 1 2 1 2 1 4 3 4 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 4 3 4 3 4, or they might be 1 3 1 3 1 2 4 2 4 2, whichever it is. The shafts that are the 1st, 3rd, and 5th ends, they are the ones that you would use in alternation to get the plain weave. Let me try this. Let me open Fiberworks. Then I will All right. Share my screen. Okay. Are you seeing Fiberworks, Mom?
I am.
Excellent.
It's quite small.
I made it as big as I can. I got this resolution on my screen is so high that the pixels are really tiny and I can't make, oh, but wait, I could do this. Display. No, resolution. Let's try this. Gonna make it like that. No, that went the wrong way. That's bigger. Okay.
It looks even smaller to me.
Does it?
Oh, there you go. That's it.
Yeah, okay. You were, okay. So if we have, first question, if you have a 2-block profile, let's just make a 2-block profile. Okay, so, and just because we need to put something somewhere, I'm gonna make it exactly as drawn in and say there are our 2, oh, that's boring. It's hard to see. Let's see. Let's go 1 2 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4, and there. Okay, and try to laying weave is drawn in. Okay, there is a 2-block profile. Now for huck, you have the option of saying one of these blocks is lace and one of the blocks is plain weave. And on 4 shafts, that's really all you can do. I don't know how many shafts you're talking about, Kathleen. Because if you're going to have a solid area of lace for huck, then you need all 4 of the shafts to do that. And you can get the plain weave for free. So you can either say, like in this little drawdown, that the blue part is lace and the white part is plain weave, or the reverse. But you can't, on 4 shafts, have all of it be lace. You can have all of it be lace on more shafts, but it would just look like all over lace, and that wouldn't be very, well, actually, you could make it be all over lace on 4 shafts too, but it would all just be the same thing. It wouldn't be any different than 1 block everywhere. I feel like I'm not making this very clear. Okay, so let me now say block substitution, lace, huck, and let's see here. See, now it's saying for huck blocks, lace effect, if you want to have 2 different huck things here, if you want to have lace in both of these blocks, we need 6 shafts. That's because of the requirements for huck. For huck block spots, all of these there, huck lace effect, you can do that on 4. I bet you, yeah, see, it has interpreted it as plain weave in the white areas and lace in the blue areas. If we compare that to this. Zoom that in more and then pull this up on top. And you see there's lace where there's blue and plain weave where there's white. And yeah, this is, oh, this isn't even lace, this, or huck, this is Swedish. Yeah, that's Swedish. Swedish and huck are basically the same thing. I don't really understand why they are called different things, because they're the same thing, except that Swedish relaxes one rule that huck has. At any rate, okay, not really being very helpful here. Let me stop this and go back and look at your question again. And so how do you show, oh, wait. So be, and 4 shafts. Okay, so yeah, on 4 shafts, what you get is 1 block is lace and 1 block is plain weave. And the lace, you will alternate like whatever you can thread huck in a whole bunch of different ways. So what Fiberworks was just doing was 2 3 2 3 2 1 4 1 4 1 2 3 2 3 2 1 4 1 4 1, and then you would use the 1 and the 2 for your plain weave. 1 2 1 2 1 1 2 1 2 1.
Actually, I thought, like you said, it was Swedish. It was 2 3 2 3 2 1 2 3 2 3 2 1.
Swedish. Not
yeah.
huck.
So that what you just said isn't what your Fiberworks was showing.
No, because it was showing Swedish.
Right. Okay.
Because that was the only way to get, yeah. Right. Okay. I'm going to set my scaling back. No, I'm not. We'll just pretend. Kathleen, did I even come close to answering your question there? If not, just ask again. Maybe ask. Yeah, let me know if I didn't. I hope I did. Okay, there, Mom, we're down to you.
Well, that's a very short answer. No, I don't have a cat. I have had at various times in my past, but I don't now.
She has them whenever my sister or I inflict them upon her.
Well, we did have the neighbor cat that hung out here for about 1.5 years until her people came home for the pandemic, and she decided she liked her people better than us.
Well,
which was
she was her cat, their cat.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her except a couple times since then.
Well, she's still out there though. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Susan Hector says, regarding summer and winter recommendations for threading patterns. I'm really enjoying using the honeysuckle threading with the 4-block summer and winter you included in departures, but the floats are a bit long. Should I just be looking for threadings that has shorter floats? Okay, so and then she goes on to say, I just pulled out my copy of Clotilde Barrett's book, Summer, Winter, and Beyond. I'm most interested in coverlet style patterns. So summer and winter, what you were talking about related to departures, that was the summer and winter treadling fashion on an overshot threading. It wasn't summer and winter, the structure. For summer and winter, the structure, you can get 2 blocks on 4 shafts. Block A is threaded 1 3 1 3 1 2, and block B is 1 4 1 4 1 2. You cannot get 4 blocks of true summer and winter on 4 shafts. So you can't do the snowball and pine trees that are so commonly seen in summer and winter coverlets, for instance, or the overshot motifs, those kinds of things, because they require 4 blocks, and therefore in summer and winter they require 6 shafts. So if you have 6 shafts, then you can take any of the 4-block coverlet designs that you find for overshot or all kinds of different structures, and do them in summer and winter. But if you have just 4 shafts, then you're limited to 2-block designs, like that one we just looked at in Fiberworks, for instance. That was a 2-block design. And there are lots of lovely 2-block designs out there, and you can doodle them fairly easily and design yourself a coverlet in summer and winter. I don't know of a resource where you can just say, I want 2-block designs. Do you know of a book like that, Mom?
No.
No.
I don't know that. Well, handweaving.net has some new stuff.
They have stuff related to block weaves, but you could look at handweaving.net and look for anything designed for 2 shafts.
Yeah.
And then you can tell it to take that 2-shaft draft and make it a summer and winter one. So there you go. That's thank you, Mom. Go look for.
You know, there's the project in handwoven, and there's the pattern you designed that was essentially 4 blocks on 4 shafts of summer and winter. So you might want to go into that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I didn't mention it because it's not really something, I don't know how it would work for a coverlet. I suppose it would work. And it's not really summer and winter. It's like a hybrid of summer and winter and crackle.
Yeah.
And it does give you 4 blocks on 4 shafts, and I can find the draft for it somewhere.
Well, there's a handwoven article that in 2013.
Oh, look at
I've
you,
got
you know all
my
the things.
Here, I'll tell you what it is.
Okay. While you're hunting for that, I will hunt for my draft that shows a 4-block sort of summer and winter crackly sort of thing. But it will take me a minute to find it. We used it.
This is by Sarah Jackson, and it's May, June 2013. 4 blocks on 4 shaft summer and winter towels.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Here is the draft. It's not opening. Why isn't it opening? Oh, because of reasons. Okay, hang on. Will this one open? No. Oh, goody. All right. All right, I will save that for the next time Mom is talking. I'll go hunting for it. That is a very pretty structure, but I don't off the top of my head know the rules for combining blocks and whether it would give you something that looks like sort of traditional coverlet motifs. I'm skeptical that you could get anything that looks like the snowball and pine trees that are characteristic of summer and winter coverlets, or overshot, because of the rules for which blocks are weaving pattern and which are weaving background, and which is more like crackle than summer and winter.
Janet, Susan may also be thinking of what, since she's talking about shorter floats, she may be thinking about overshot threading, treadle this summer and winter, in which case it is a good idea to have shorter floats.
Yeah, if you really want to do something with the summer and winter treadling fashion on an overshot threading, then I would go to the Bertha Gray Hayes books, or the Josephine Estes, I think maybe her name is, and the miniatures. Look for miniatures, because they will by nature have short floats, and they have very small little blocks, so the float length won't get unwieldy when you treadle it like summer and winter. Susan does says she has 8 shafts, so then Susan, you can get the snowball and pine trees, and you can get the overshot motifs. So the thing I might do then is look through handweaving.net for, I bet you that you'll start seeing profile drafts on handweaving.net, specifically designed to be converted into the structure of your choice. And then when you see a motif that you like, you can ask it to tell you, or you can do this in Fiberworks or any other full-featured desktop application for weaving, and ask it to show it to you in summer and winter, and how many shafts would that take? All right. Sandy Lincoln just mentions that she paid $20 for I Weave It, without knowing when that happened. It's not, I don't know if that's still the current price. Jean Klug says, what is the advantage between 10-2 or 8-2 cotton? Is one drapier than the other when you use it for making cloth? The drapiness is more dependent, since those two are the same fiber. And usually 10-2 on the market is mercerized. I do have some unmercerized 10-2 in the store, but I haven't seen it commonly. And I've never seen 8-2 that is mercerized, though it could well exist. So usually 10-2 is mercerized and 8-2 is non-mercerized. I'm not sure that mercerization has much impact on drape. What has the most impact on drape is going to be your set and how close together the threads are. So if you, kick my table. If you want your fabric to be flexible, then you need to give the threads a little more room than if you want it to be stiff. The closer together the threads are, the more firm and unbendy the fabric will be. Also, float length has a lot to do with drape. So plain weave, which has the most interlacements and therefore the shortest floats, will have less drape than a 2-2 twill, where the floats are 2 threads in every direction, or a 3-1 twill, where there are 3 and then 1 and 3 and then 1, or a 3-3 twill or a 4-4 twill, for which you need more shafts than 4. So the longer the float length, the more drape you're going to get. So to control the drape, I would think about your set and your float length. I don't think that 10-2 or 8-2, either one, is going to be markedly different in that respect. Although different manufacturers may put like more twist in the 10-2, which may make it, if there's more ply twist, it may not be quite, the fiber itself may not be quite as flexible. Other manufacturers that make 8-2 use the short, I mean, cotton has a short staple anyway, but really short staples and a manufacturing process that makes it a little bit fluffier, a little bit hairier. And that seems to me like it might have a little less silkiness, if not necessarily drape, than other 8-2 or 10-2. So there's various factors at play. I don't think we can just say 10-2 has more drape than 8-2. Mom, do you have?
Well, I think, they say that mercerized is just as absorbent, say, as unmercerized, but I would not want to make a towel, say, out of 100% mercerized cotton. Now, that's not quite what she was asking. She was asking about flexibility. But there are things that you would use 10-2 for that you wouldn't use 8-2 for, probably, and vice versa. 10-2 is shiny because of the mercerization. This scarf is 10-2. I think if I had made it out of 8-2 and adjusted the set appropriately, it wouldn't have quite the iridescence. It would have it, but it wouldn't have as much because there's not the sheen to the yarn itself.
But it still would have had the drape if you adjusted the set. Yeah.
It should have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mercerization makes the fibers stronger and it makes it take dye more readily. So that's why that thing became so popular, because people wanted to make nice, bright, saturated yarns. And it doesn't really affect the absorbency of the stuff, but most mercerized cottons have more twist in them than unmercerized do, and that's what affects the absorbency. It's like you've got a cloth that's already partly wrung out. It's already got some twist added to it. So it's not going to be as absorbent as one that's loose and has more soaky upness. Okay. Da-na-na. Next. Okay, Becky Roberts asks for more details about the Academy. Becky, I'm going to save that for the end. I will give you some more details. I don't have a whole lot that I can share. Well, okay, let's not save it for the end. So those of you who are on my mailing list or Tien Chu's mailing list probably know that Tien Chu and I are developing a website that will be called the Hand Weaving Academy, and it will have resources and classes and other good stuff for hand weavers. And I can't really say too much more about it beyond that, except that I'm really freaking excited about it. And it's like what I wanted to do when I grow up ever since I learned to weave. So it's going to be super cool. And that's because we're still building it and we haven't made a lot of the final decisions yet. There's just not a lot more details to share. I can also say, however, that when we get to the point of sharing details, we will be sharing them with our sort of inner circles first. And for me, that's my patrons. So you guys will get the news as soon as anybody else and sooner than a lot of people. Becky is also asking how to get on the list for the Vashon classes, Mom.
Well, she can just ask.
Well, do you want to give her, is there an email address to use or the website?
Well, what do you think would be the best way? Usually,
is the website even up anymore?
I have a list of people on my computer that I let know when we've finally decided, but that's probably the best thing. So yeah, my email address, I can give you that.
Well, here, I gotta fix my resolution because this is driving me nuts. But
most people who take our classes live nearby, not too far away.
Right.
We have had people come over, quite a few people come over to Vashon and rent a B&B to stay in for the 4 nights that they'll be on the island, whether they live in Seattle or not, just so they don't have to go back and forth. And they like to stay late in the studio and keep weaving. So we have
People
had
come from
people come from
further.
a distance.
Yeah.
But not too many.
Yeah. So the best way to get the information right now is to go to www.weaverspalette, like the palette of colors.com. That has the information for the classes we thought we were going to teach in 2020. But
Well,
did not.
it does have 2020.
Yes.
2021, we didn't teach.
Oh, did we teach these?
We taught in 2020.
Did
That
we?
was just before the pandemic hit.
Oh, I cannot minimize Zoom when I am recording this meeting. Okay. Yes. Okay. Mom and my husband Ron are both saying, yes, you did. So obviously I am off my rocker. I don't remember doing drafting and fabric analysis. Okay.
It was a one-day class.
Yeah. Okay. So
we're not going to do that again, though. We're not going to do that this year.
Not in 22. I mean, we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah.
It's just the way you said it. We're not going to do that again. Makes it sound like it was some sort of whoa.
No, we're going to make sure people can be spread out well and not have a bunch of table stuff this time.
Right. Yeah.
Not have any table stuff.
Yeah. So, right. Our classes in 2022 will be slightly different than they have been in the past. But, and this is all assuming that I can even get there.
Well,
I have to say I'm anxious about it. I'm anxious to go and see everybody, but I'm also anxious about flying 4 planes. Oh.
Becky, on that website, weaverspalette.com, there is contact info. It tells you how to get information about registering.
Yeah.
I think my email address is on there.
Here, I'm gonna put the URL in the chat. Oh goodness. Okay, weaverspalette.com. There, I put it in the chat. And I forgot to go look over on Patreon. See, this is the reason why I was worried that I wouldn't be able to juggle things. Oh, good. It looks like nobody said anything over there. Anyway, most excellent. But I will put it, whoops. I'm going to put it over here too, weaverspalette.com. There, post it. All right. Okay. Jennifer Schuster-Clark says, I would be interested in hearing how you choose or calculate your set. When I was a brand new weaver, I would use set charts from Handwoven and always found the fabric too dense for my liking. Right?
Yep.
I don't know. All right. I would also have a really hard time beating to square. That's because the sets are too close. Now I often use sets that are a lot more open. Yep. Than recommended and find the fabric is a better hand and is comfortable to beat square. Yes. I always wondered why I'm so far off from the published recommended. Okay, so 2 things. Well, several things. First of all, as you can tell, Mom and I agree with you 100%. That a lot of times the sets from Handwoven are too close. I use them, like if I want to see what to set something at for twill, I look at what Handwoven says, and then I think, okay, that would be my max, and maybe I'd do a little less. So for instance, the master yarn chart says 24 EPI for 8/2 cotton for twill. Mom and I both prefer, I'm pointing up and down because she's up there on my screen now. 22 EPI for 8/2 cotton. And you can slay that in a 10 or in a 12 by, 2-3-2-3, blah, 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 or 3-2-3, 3-4, whatever. But we both like 22 so much that we have 11 dent reeds. Like we specially ordered 11 dent reeds, and I actually just ordered them for my store so I can have them because they are not commonly available. And I'm always telling people, oh, 22 is perfect. And they're like, where's the reed then? So, okay. So another thing about the Handwoven chart, I am pretty sure I am not 100.10% sure of this, but I'm pretty sure that the sets that are listed on the hand woven chart are not necessarily recommended as these are the ideal set for X. I think they are the sets that have been used the most often or used in the magazine. So that's slightly different. Also, because related, I bet you anything, if I were the editor of Hand Woven magazine and I was printing a pattern and it said, use 22 EPI for the perfect ideal set, I would think to myself, well, that's all well and good, but none of my readers, none of my subscribers have 11 den reads. And to make them slay 2, 3, 2, 3, or whatever you have to do to get 22 out of a 10 is a big pain in the butt. And 24 is really close to 22. It'll be fine. Let's just say 24, because that'll be easier for everybody. I suspect, I do not know, but I suspect there's something like that going on. So, and the fact of the matter is the 24 is fine, but if you beat the Wefton at 24 EPI, then it is kind of stiff and it's hard to do.
Well, especially if it's a wide warp, you just can't do it. It won't go.
Or if you're on a table loom.
Right.
Or if you're on a lightweight loom. On the other hand, if you're putting an 8-inch wide warp on a 60-inch wide Maycomber, you're going to get more like 30 EPI. Well, maybe 30, 28. Because how much your weft beats in depends greatly on the weight of your beater and the width of your warp, amongst other things like how hard you beat it. And there's no way that hand woven can say, okay, well, let's see. If you're on a 60-inch wide Maycomber with a really, then you want this set. And if you're on that kind of loom, you want that set. If you're da-da-da-da-da. So let's just pick one in the middle. And for God's sake, let's use a reed that everybody has. That's not, really complicated. So that's all about the master yarn chart. Your question as to how to choose or calculate your set, really, the honest answer is I kind of guess. I base it on stuff I've already woven. I look at the master yarn chart and use that as my starting place. And then I think, I'm just going to try whatever. And if I don't get it square, then I'll change my set, or I just will decide I don't care. And then I'll know from that point. So for instance, I'm using 8-2 cotton. Master yarn chart says 24 EPI. I have a 12 dent reed. Great. I'm just going to try that. And then when I'm weaving it and I say to myself, it's a pain in the bum to get this to weave square, then I would say, okay, I'm either going to open up the threads and reduce my set a little bit, or I'm going to use a skinnier weft, or I'm not going to worry about getting it square this time, and I'm going to note for next time, 24 is too close.
Well, and many times you don't care. I mean, it's not a square is not an issue. I mean, if you're doing a twill that doesn't have any squareness to it, then if you don't get 24 PPI, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's only if you have something that you want square that it really matters.
Yeah. And in that case, what I would do if I noticed that that it was hard to beat it to square and I really needed it to be square, if I wanted to take the trouble to reslay it, I might, but chances are good that I would just switch to a skinnier weft and hope for square that way. And I would also reduce the tension on the loom, because that'll give you more picks per inch. So I think we've answered why you're off from the published recommended, because you've gone to the dark side and joined us. Okay, Sandy is just mentioning that she bought I Weave It a year ago. So that was when she paid $20 for it. Alrighty. Susan has a question for you, Mom.
Can you describe your yarn storage system and whether you have noticed fading or damage in storage? My winter project is to organize my yarn so that it's not mixed in with books and tools. Well, what you see behind me here is just part of what I have. I have, and this is an inside wall. It doesn't really get sun on it. I haven't noticed any fading. And these are all cottons. I do have some other shelves around that have other kinds of yarn. I mean, I'm not consistent. I've also got bins, and that's where most of my wool is, I think. And I've tossed some mesh things with cloves in there to try to prevent any damage from moths. And then recently, Janet asked me to buy some yarn trees that were for sale here. What?
I bought them.
Well, to pick them up.
Yeah,
Yes, they were available in Seattle, and she will get them one of these years. But they are taking up space in my studio, and they are closer. They do get some sun on them where I found room. I have very little room left in my studio for anything. So anyway, and it's 24 by 30 feet. So it's not little, but it's full. So anyhow, I have those yarn trees that have cones on them or bobbins, like brassard bobbins. I think it's, and I have bookshelves that have books on one level, yarn on the next, depending on whether or not books would fit on that. So I don't know that I'm a very good source for a really organized, I mean, I know where everything is, but somebody walking in here would say there's yarn all over the place.
As it should be. Parenthetically, I did not grow up with yarn all over the place like that. My grandmother was a knitter, and there was a drawer and a dresser in the basement that had like her stash in it. Or I don't even know if it was her good stuff. I think it was maybe just the leftovers from projects she had finished. She was an amazing knitter. But I used to play with those balls of yarn. Man, I loved that yarn. I would untangle the mess, but there were not walls of cones of yarn in my house growing up. This is a phenomenon that both Mom and I have
well, that's Mom became a weaver at the end of her life, but she never did that much weaving, or not at the very end, but you know.
Yeah, and I don't remember her having a weaving stash at all. I mean, maybe she had it in her apartment, but I think she just like got stuff for the project, used it, did the thing.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too.
Jean Kavanaugh is asking, are the 11 dent reeds specially made by a particular company? No, well, they're made by the folks that I'm importing them from. I'm importing them. They're not, but I think you can get them from most reed manufacturers. Yeah. They just tend to be like a specialty size that you might pay a little bit more for.
I ordered ours from Leclerc.
The one that I have for the one I currently have is from Leclerc, but I've ordered a 9 and more 11s, and I can't remember if I ordered a 13 or not. If I didn't, I'm going to.
A 13. Now, what are you going to use that for?
26. 26 for 22 silk.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Maybe I'll even get a 14 and have 28. I'm just not a big fan of denting like 2 3 2 3 2 3 or 2 3 3 3 3 3, those kinds of dentings. They mess with my pattern mind. I like
Yes,
things
but
to
most
be-
people just can't really afford to go out and get
I know, I know.
9, 10,
absolutely.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
I know. This is my big indulgence for like my reward to myself for all this teaching I've been doing. I'm buying the 11 dent read. I'm buying the 13 dent read. So yeah, that's my like splurge. Jean says, if I loosen my tension on the loom, I don't have much room in the shed. How do you get more shed room for a loose tension? I always have a tight tension. Jean, what kind of loom do you have? Is it a jack loom or a counterbalance loom? Or what is the manufacturer and model? You don't want your tension to be so loose that the threads sag. That's not going to work. But tension, as long as there's enough tension to support the shuttle, which means not very much tension on a jack loom, because a jack loom has a shuttle race to support the shuttle. So the threads themselves don't need to do it. A rising straight jack. Okay, she's got a Kesnich loom, floor loom jack. Okay.
Kucinich is like those are regular jack looms. Those are really nice looms. That's one we haven't ever used.
Did a big truck just drive past your house, Mom?
Yeah.
Funny. I could hear it.
Went down the road.
That's funny. That's never happened during one of our webinars before. So I'm trying to think.
There's really tight tension, and then there's a little bit less tight tension.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of more like Jean. I keep my tension higher than yours.
Yeah, I know.
I can't get decent selvages unless I have a pretty good tension.
But when you reduce the tension, you get more picks per inch.
You do that. You do that. Absolutely. Yeah. I've gotten so when I throw the shuttle, I try not to pull, just let some of the yarn relax in the shed before I beat it. And that seems to help too.
Mm-hmm. The tension should not be so loose that pulling on the shuttle just pulls the selvage threads right into the web. That shouldn't happen. And it shouldn't be so loose that your shuttle just goes right through the threads. And it shouldn't be so loose that when you open the shed, things droop. But there's a large range between tight enough to not do any of those things and so tight that you can't open a shed. So, I mean, it may be that your tension is already as loose as is feasible, in which case, if you're trying to get more picks per inch, then you need to change your weft or change your set or change the weight of your beater. You can add weights to your beater to make it heavier. Wow. Or you can beat faster. Don't forget your physics, your high school physics. If you didn't sleep through it like I did, because it was first period. Oh my God. Force equals mass times acceleration. So the two things you can change to have more force from the beater is its mass, add weights, or its acceleration, beat faster.
Harder.
Faster.
Okay.
Not this, oh, I'm going to beat, but I'm going to beat.
Oh, okay, like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Faster. There are no open questions, folks, and we have 20 minutes left. Go. Jerry is also saying faster equals harder. Wendy Pratt says, warping mills, vertical versus horizontal. This is a continuation of a conversation Wendy and I had a couple days ago. Have you ever used a horizontal? Oh, you've used my horizontal mill, haven't you, Mom?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay. What would you say if you were going out and buying your own mill and had the choice?
Well, I did do that several years ago, and I bought a vertical one.
You bought that one? I thought somebody gave that one to you.
Oh, no, I bought it.
Oh.
I bought it, and I really like it. I think,
Me too.
What are the advantages and disadvantages? Let's see. Well, the vertical one doesn't take up quite as much space as a horizontal one. Janet, your horizontal one is like 6 feet long, isn't it?
The framey part, the rotating part was like 6 feet long, and the stand was even longer. I got rid of it. I don't have it anymore.
Really? Well, it took up more space than you had, probably.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It did.
I would say that the advantage to a horizontal one is that if you want to wind long warps, that on a vertical one, you're getting down near the floor. If you have a big floor one. What, honey?
You see, Carrie Phil says it's taking up more space than I have.
Oh, she has yours.
That is where my warping mill went.
Yes. Well, anyway, if it's horizontal, you can use the whole width of it without getting down on the floor, assuming you don't have a tabletop one, which is an advantage. And I think it would probably be easier on your back if that kind of thing gets to be a problem. When I was winding warps for our last classes, I was putting 30 yards on, and it took every bit of my warping mill, which is a big mill. And I had to start at the top and then sit down and lean over. And depending on your back, which for many of us as we age gets to be a kind of a difficult thing, that's a consideration. Now, there are vertical mills that sit on tables. And actually, I think I don't know if I still have one of those or not. I've never liked them.
I have them. I use them. I don't like them nearly as well as I like Mom's vertical mill that's big, because they're kind of wobbly. But the ones I have and have used are either Leclerc's or made from Leclerc's, copies of Leclerc's. Ashford has a small tabletop vertical mill that looks like it would be more stable. I haven't used it. I've sold it, and the people that have bought it liked it, but I haven't personally used it, so I don't have personal experience.
But they can't manage as long a warp. It depends on the length of warp you want. And one of the things I like to do is to double my warps, do a folded warp. Well, then you need your warp twice as long as you would otherwise. And so, I couldn't double those 30-yard warps. They just, my mill can't handle that. But lots of times that works really well, and it saves a lot of effort. Anyhow, those are my thoughts. I like the vertical, but I think the horizontal could have some ergonomic benefits if you have ergonomic issues.
I have been told, but again, no personal experience. And I'm trying to remember, I think there might be one woman in my local guild that had this experience herself, but I'm not sure. I've been told that vertical mills can trigger vertigo in people who wear bifocals. So if you have issues with vertigo, and you wear bifocals, that could be a consideration.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that a weaving group somewhere near here has a horizontal mill that they can somehow that has a brake on it that they can somehow set up like facing the loom so that they can beam the warp directly from the mill. And I don't know that that would work with a vertical one because I don't understand how it works, but maybe it would.
Yeah.
But then the height would be changing. It seems like that would be.
You'd have to run it down through something else before it went to the loom.
Yeah. On the other hand, the horizontal one, the angle is changing, so they must have to.
Well,
move that
that's
along
right.
too. So there's got to be something. I don't know. Holly is saying that you gave your tabletop mill to her and she loves it. So, yay! We both
Holly
paid
Haynes?
forward. Yeah, it's in the chat.
Really? Oh, well, I'm glad you love it. Great.
I'm glad you love the big mill too, Carrie, even though you didn't say it.
She doesn't have room for it.
She hasn't used it yet. Okay, Kathleen Sobey, hope I'm saying it right now, is asking, what would you recommend for a 16 shaft table loom? Are Wool House looms still available? Are they still selling the 16 shaft?
I don't think so. I think they're not in business anymore.
Yeah.
Well, now this is assuming it's not a Dobby loom or something. I would guess.
Right.
Does Louette make a 16 shaft?
They might do.
What are those? There's
They're
some
Jane.
people. Yeah, people have brought those to workshops, and not that many shafts, but they're really quite nice. I don't know if they make them. The Ashford one, Ashford makes them, I think.
I will look. Yeah, I have. Let's see. The Jane. You can get them in different widths, but they don't have. This doesn't have different numbers of shafts.
16.
I don't think Jane's come with 16.
Okay.
Ashford, let me check them. I have an 8-shaft, an Ashford 8-shaft table loom for a rental loom in the store, and I am not a big fan of table looms, but as far as table looms go, the Ashford's a pretty good one. The Jane is really nice too. But I don't know if they do 16. Mountain looms, I think people like. But when you're getting up to 16, I'm just going to put in a plug for the Louette Magic Dobby because it's 24, but it's a Dobby, right? So, and it's a nice little loom. I have 1.5. I'm just going to look and see. I'm pretty sure products, weaving looms. 16 shaft table loom. Yes, Ashford does make one. Look at all those little flippers. Sowie. And it looks like it's just like my 8 shaft one. So I imagine it would work about the same way.
It has an overhead beater.
Yep.
Those are nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, table loom's not my fave, but the Ashford ones are not bad. And Louette, if Louette does make a 16 shaft, which I should know, but don't, I'm sure it would be good. Louette's engineering is really good. Okay, Jerry Retzel, Retson, I can't see the end of your name. Can you recommend a really good book for understanding how to design summer and winter? Well, somebody just mentioned Clotilde Barrett has a summer and winter book. I don't have that one, but I bet it's good. I have her, I was just looking at her double two-tie book, I think. Designing in summer and winter is really, in my opinion, designing profile drafting. It's designing profile drafts, threadings, treadlings, drawdowns. So any book that's going to talk about that. So Madeline Vanderhoot's Complete Book of Drafting talks about that. Dora Mae Keesby's Pattern Something for Hand Weavers, pattern designing with blocks, that would be one. All you need to know to take your profile draft and make it into summer and winter is the keys for it. How to convert a profile threading to summer and winter, how to convert a profile treadling to summer and winter, and the tie-up. And that's actually quite easy to do. It's more straightforward for summer and winter than just about any of the others. Bronson is an exception. Bronson's even easier, I mean. Or you can design your profile draft, upload it as a WIF to handweaving.net and tell handweaving.net to interpret it as summer and winter, and bam, it'll be done. Or Fiberworks or another application. The converting from a profile draft to summer and winter is really the easiest part of the equation. So what you need is a book that will help you design profile drafts. And I'm thinking Dora Mae Keesby Designing with Blocks or Madeline's. Madeline's is pretty, I know a lot of people start Madeline's and don't get to the end of it because they get bogged down, confused somewhere in the middle. But summer and winter is fairly early on. I think it may be before the problem point. Oh, Jerry already knows how to design profile drafts and convert them. Then none of what I said was useful. So summer and winter, good summer and winter books. Anybody out there? Holly is saying that Heddlecraft had a whole issue on summer and winter. It would have been 4 block, 4 shaft summer and winter, but that's still a good place to start. And everything that was in, Heddlecraft. I'm sorry, I was thinking Weaver's Craft, Heddlecraft. So that's Robin Spady's online magazine. So look for that issue. Yeah. Susan is asking about the warping wheel that AVL makes. And maybe somebody else does. There's a warping wheel, and there's also a warping square. And I think maybe the square is the one that somebody besides AVL makes. I am fascinated with the idea of those, but I have never seen it in action. I've never tried one. And I don't know. I think they might only be for sectionals because you're really just winding a little bit at a time, and then you've got to beam it. I mean, I suppose you could chain it off and then put it onto your loom, but then I think you're defeating the whole purpose. So warping wheels are not in my wheelhouse at all, but I'm very interested in them. And I was close to getting one when I still had a sectional loom set up, but I don't anymore. Anybody else? I'm gonna check the chat. Thank you, Jean Kavanaugh. I was wrong. It is not Susan, it is Sally. Sally Breckenridge is the author of I Weave It. And is the one who's active in the Facebook groups. So, and I have not had cause to write her and ask her questions myself, but other people who have said she's very responsive. So that's really, really nice when somebody who is actually working on the software you're able to interact with them directly.
Ann Stauffer says that Donna Sullivan has a summer and winter book that's out of print, but if you have access to it through your Weavers Guild, that might be a good source.
And Donna Sullivan writes good books. So Wow, I'm gonna put that on my A books watch list right now. Yeah, well, it is almost 7:30. I think we covered the things. You got 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Oh, I'm gonna look over on Patreon and see if there's anything happening over there. Nope. Only my own post. Unless it doesn't show up automatically and I have to refresh. Nope. Okay, well, if in the post that I posted before the post that has the live stream in it, I added a link to a list of topics that Mom and I do know at least something about. It's not exhaustive. We know more than what's on the list, but clearly I need to add things like, nope, don't know about the warping wheel to the list. But anyway, that just gives you an idea of some things that you could ask questions related to. And we'll keep working on it, updating it as we go. Yeah, well, I think this worked. You guys will have to, you can like, I'll maybe post again on Patreon and ask, for feedback, but it feels like this was successful and I've had a good time. So we'll do it again next month.
Yeah, thank you for coming, folks.
Yes, it's quite lovely to have seen all the peoples. I miss this when we don't do it, when we don't have a class on. So, and it's kind of fun. I was thinking today as I was driving home, and when we're doing the webinars, there's always those questions that we have to say, that is just not part of this class. It's beyond the scope, whatever. Not anymore. Now it's just a free for all. Now it'll be, I don't know anything about that, but other than that, it's all good. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. I think that the live stream will just stay in that Patreon post. In case that is not the case, I am recording so that I can upload it if I need to, but I don't think I'm going to need to. I think it's just going to be there already. I don't know. At this point, I don't have plans to do the closed captioning, but I will absolutely do it if anybody needs it for accessibility, because I know that's really important. I am hard of hearing. I need my headphones. So if there's anybody that needs or wants the CC, let me know and I'll get it done. But at this point, I haven't contracted with anybody to do the captioning. So tell your friends. Okay.
All right.
We're not going to copy the questions or anything. It's all in the recording.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Bye. Bye, Mom.
Bye, sweetie.